What's going on, guys? Captain Horn 23 here, and today I'm going to show you how to start up the Zibo 737 from cold and dark. Don't forget to join my LSPDFR and X-Plane 11 community Discord. In here I have many channels related to LSPDFR, including 4 help channels with helpers standing by to assist you with any issue you may have with LSPDFR. I also have X-Plane related channels where you can come in here and talk with other people that play X-Plane and make new friends, and you can also go on group flights and VATSIM with your friends. I will also be going on group flights with people, so if you wish to fly with me or even play LSPDFR with me, feel free to join the Discord. I'm always looking for new members. The link to join the Discord will be in the description. So I've noticed quite a few videos on starting up the Zibo 737 from cold and dark, and they are extremely long and just a pain to sit through in a sense. So I'm going to try to make this video as short as possible, but also as informative as possible. So let's jump right in. When you first get in the 737, you're going to have this tablet to your left here. What you want to do is, if you want to, you don't have to, but I like to go into the settings here, go into realism and set your align time to short. If it's real, it's going to take 7 minutes. Long, I have no idea, and short, it only takes 1 minute. So that's all you need to do there. Now I will be using X Checklist, which is a wonderful plugin. It has this little checklist here, and it's specific to each aircraft. I will leave a link in the description to where you can get that. So we're going to start off with the preliminary pre-flight procedure, cold and dark. So chocks, the way you set them in the Zibo is going down to the tablet, go to ground services and hit set chocks, just like that. Now what that did is it literally set chocks right out here behind the wheels, just like that. And you notice that it automatically checked chocks. Parking brake, it says as required, but we want to make sure it's up if you're sitting at the gate, and it is up. So we can check that off. Battery, that's going to be located on the overhead panel, and it's going to be right here. So it's got a guard. All you got to do is flip this guard down. Boom. And now look at that. We have power because we just activated the battery. So after you have the battery on and guarded, we want to connect ground power. Now that's right here, GRD power. And it says ground power available. But if I go over here into the tablet, it says GPU connect. This is ground power unit connect. So if I disconnect it, that light turns off, just like that. And if I reconnect it, now it's back on. So you just want to make sure this blue light is illuminated, just like that, and then go down on it to turn it on, just like that. And you're going to hear a little beep. Now Irs Mode Selector, this is going to be in the upper overhead panel, which is right over here. You might want to use your arrow keys on your keyboard or set up a view like I have, which brings you right up to it like that. So up here we want to mess with this right here. This is our Irs Display. This is so the aircraft knows exactly where it's at. In order to set this up, we want to turn both these switches down here from off all the way over to nav. So like that and like that. And now it's going to start flashing a line right here. There we go. Maybe they don't flash, they'll just sit there. But next what you want to do is go up to this switch right here and turn it to heading and STS. Just like that. Now you are able to see the time. And now this is where you could see if your align time is long, short, or realistic. Now mine is short, so this is minutes. Mine is only going to take 1 minute. So after we have that, it says flight leg start, but I'm not going to do this in this tutorial because we are not going on a flight. But if you did want to do that, go to the home page of the tablet and it says start flight leg right here. I'm just going to check it off. Fuel and payload setting we don't need at all. And now it's going to go into the CDU, which is right down here. This is the FMC. But we're not going to mess with that. There will be a future video on how to use the FMC and set it all up later. So I'm just going to skip that for now. And now we got pre-flight procedure 1 out of 5. Irs alignment will be complete in like less than 60 seconds. Now there is one thing we have to do in the FMC. You notice that it says enter Irs position. This is actually really easy. Go ahead and clear that message with the bottom right button, just like that. Hit FMC up here, and then POS in initialization, position initialization. Hit that, and now it says set Irs position in a bunch of boxes. What you want to do once you're on this page is hit next page down here, and you can take either of these GPS coordinates, left or right. I always take the left one, and just click the little button beside it here. And what that does is it copies it into the scratch pad here. Next, hit previous page, and then just hit the button beside these boxes, and there we go. After you do that, you'll notice your primary flight display will pop up, as well as everything else. So after we enter our IRS, just like that, it wants us to turn on the Yaw Damper. The Yaw Damper is going to be on the left side right up here, just right above your head. Just flip it like that and wait for this to turn off, just like that. And now it's just going to run through a bunch of tests. You don't have to do this because this is a simulator. I mean, it's really not going to fail, but I'll show you where to test everything at. So it wants engine fire test. We locate that by going over like this, and it's going to be right down here. This is your fire panel right here, right under the throttle quadrant. And we see test right here. It wants the fault and op, which is to the left. Just like that. Just press and hold it, make sure that fault lights up. And then go the other way and press and hold it. And they all illuminate just like that. And now it just wants us to reset the master caution, which is right here. Just click on it and it resets it. Extinguisher fire test is also down here. It's on the right side. It wants us to do position 1, which is to the left. Just make sure those illuminate. And then position 2, which is to the right. And there we go. That's good. Next thing we have to do is start the APU. This is the auxiliary power unit. It's what is used to generate power to the aircraft if you don't have any ground power. And it's also what starts the engines. So in order to turn on the APU, it's going to be right here beside the lights. You see it says APU right here. It has 3 positions, off, on, and start. What we want to do is turn it to on, and then press and hold start, just like that. And you'll notice that this now says low oil pressure up here, and the APU is now rising via this gauge right here. Once this is complete, I will come right back. Alright guys, after a few seconds that gauge will rise and then fall back down and signify that the APU is now running and is functioning properly. The next thing we want to do is turn on the Apu Generators, which is right above it, this panel right here. This is your generator panel. On the outside we have our engine generators, and in the middle right here, this is your APU generator. I don't know if you can read that. It says APU Gen off bus. In order to start running things from the APU, we need to flip both of these inner switches down. So there's 1 and there's 2. We are now running on APU power, which means we can turn off the ground power. So if we go over to our tablet, go to ground services and GPU disconnect. We no longer have any ground power. We are running solely off the auxiliary power unit. So moving on, the next thing we want to do is arm the emergency lights. Now it's going to be on your overhead panel. It's literally right in the middle. Emergency exit lights. Just flip this switch. Boom, like that. Done. And this light will go off. Window heater. This is another test, and the location of it is in the very top of the overhead panel, a little bit to the right. Right here, window heat. Now it wants the heater test, which is going to be down first. It's this switch right here in the middle. It says power test. So just flip it down, make sure those green lights come to on, and then go the other way, which is the overheat test. After you perform both those tests, go ahead and flip all 4 of these switches on, just like that. Now we get to the air conditioning, and this panel is going to be a little bit to the right and a little bit lower, right here. It's light gray. The first thing it wants to do is turn on the trim air switch. Now the trim air switch is actually in the panel above. It says trim air right here. Go ahead and flip that to on. Next, isolation valve switch should be open, which it is by default, so it checked itself. Packs go to auto, so both of these go to auto, and then the APU bleed, which is at the very bottom right here, comes to on. Now this is going to start your air conditioning and start pressurizing the cabin for flight. Next, you want the flight altitude indicator, which is right under it, set at whatever your cruise level is. So it could be anywhere from, I don't know, 25,000 feet to 38,000 feet. You just set it to whatever your cruise level is. Let's just say 36,000 feet. Same way with your landing altitude. Obviously, if you're landing at Miami, this is probably going to be 0. But if you're landing at Denver, Colorado, it's going to be 5,000 because of the altitude. This just depends on the altitude of the airport. So both of those are checked off. And now ignition select switch automatically checks because here's your engine ignition. It's set by default. Wheel well light switch can come to on. You really don't have to. There's no point. The only reason you do this is for the first officer to do a walk around of the aircraft and make sure everything is functioning properly and there's no damage to the wings or anything. So we're just going to check that off for now. Next, courses set. This again has to do with the FMC. After you program the FMC, you can view your course in this panel here, but we are not going on a flight, so I cannot check my courses. So we're just going to check it off. Next, it wants the flight directors to come on, and that's going to be in the Autopilot panel right here in the middle. You see this F/D on this side. Just turn it on. And then on the other side, exact opposite. Now what this does is it turns on a little purple thing right in the middle. It's not going to be there because, again, the FMC isn't set up. But we have this little FD, which stands for Flight Director on. Bank Angle Selector is also on the Autopilot panel. And it's this little knob right back here, like behind this main knob that turns the heading. This is 10 degrees of bank, and this is 30 degrees of bank. It by default is set right here, so it's perfect. Autopilot disengage bar is automatically up. Minimums. Now this is pretty simple actually. The minimum selector is going to be this right here, and you see the minimums, mins right here, and radio or baro. I don't know which, what the difference is, but I always go barometric, and I assume that's American. If you live in Europe or something, you might want to set it as radio. But once we turn it to baro, that pops up right down here. It says 200 currently. Now, the way we do this is we look at our altitude right now, which is about 1,010, I'd say. We want to set this baro to exactly 1,000 feet above. So just add 1,000 to this altitude, so that would be 2,010. And the way we adjust it is turning this outer knob right here. So you'll notice, look right down here, whenever I start twisting this, that goes up. Now it's best to just come over here and press and hold, and there it goes across our altitude. We want it to set at 2,010. And it's easy to overshoot or undershoot, like I just did both of. But that is now 2,010 feet. You always want it 1,000 above the ground level. So we can check that. Minimums is set. And it just checked a bunch of stuff here, which is automatic. Master lights test is going to be right under that baro panel right here. It says lights test bright or dim. Just go up, and what this does is it turns on literally every single light that can come on in the aircraft. Just take a look around and make sure every light is functioning, and that's good. And I don't think it's on this checklist, but you can also test this right here by going up. Make sure those light up just like that. Auto brake selector is going to be right here under the autopilot panel. It has off, 1, 2, 3, max, and RTO. That stands for rejected takeoff. Just in case something happens during takeoff, it'll engage the brakes to the maximum potential. Next is fuel flow. It says reset and rate, which is in the same panel right here. So just click it up and drop it back down. Next we have a cargo fire, another test, and it's going to be located in the same spot as the fire panel, except this time it's going to be below it right here. This black button right here that says test. Just press and hold it, and you'll hear a bell ringing to make sure that's functioning perfect. And it wants us to reset the master caution. Remember, just press on it, just like that. Now we have the before start procedure. It wants us to arm the auto throttle, which is done on the autopilot panel. It's A/T arm. Just turn it on like that. IAS Mach speed is right here. You want to set this to V2 plus 15. So if V1 was like 128 or 130, you'd set this to 145 or 143, whichever. It's just V1 plus 15. After, it says ARM LNAV and VNAV, which is also in the same panel, but these will not light up unless you program the FMC. As you can see, I'm clicking them and nothing is happening. So we won't worry about that. We're just going to check that off. Initial heading, you want to set this to your runway heading. So for taking off of runway 27, we obviously will set this to 270 degrees, just like that. Initial altitude, you can go ahead and set this to your cruising altitude. If you're flying on VATSIM, they'll most likely give you a clearance up to like 8,000 feet, and then expect flight level 350 after 10 minutes or something like that. But if you're just flying on single player, you just set this to your cruising altitude. Alright, so we got those set. This is the point where the pilot would get the taxi and takeoff briefings. And my apologies, this is the point where they would brief the crew and each other to make sure they are ready for taxi and takeoff. And then this is where you would obtain start clearance from the tower. We'll just say we have it. Fuel pumps left and right need to come on, which is going to be this white panel right above you. These two are the left fuel pumps, aft and forward, and these two are the right fuel pumps, and these two are the center fuel pumps. You can turn these on if you have fuel in your center tank. You can see this by going right down here. This is your center tank fuel, this is your left tank and right tank fuel. So obviously if you didn't have any fuel in your center tank, you would leave these center pumps off, but you will always have fuel in your left and right wings. So we're just going to leave those on for now because I do have fuel. Fuel pump center, that's why it says as required down here, because you don't always have fuel in the center tank. System B hydraulic is going to be this right over here. You can kind of see it. It's these right here that have the 4 low pressure. System B is right here. We can just flip that switch to on, and that's all we do there. Anti-collision lights will come on. The lights are located right here on the first officer side. Turn on the anti-collision lights. Stabilizer trim is going to be right down here. The FMC will tell you what trim you need to be set at, so we're not going to deal with that. We'll just say that it's set. Aileron and rudder trim is going to be at the very bottom right here. This is your rudder trim. You can change it by doing this right here, but you want to make sure it's 0, otherwise you are going to get annoyed real fast. So now we are ready for pushback, because that anti-collision light that we just turned on signifies that the aircraft is about to start its engines, and it is right here on the very top. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-plan my pushback and just enter that, and I'm going to start the pushback, and when that tow truck is all connected, I will get right back to you guys. Alright guys, the tow is all connected and ready to go. So what we're going to do is come over here to the tablet and remove the chocks. I don't know why it said they were, maybe it automatically removed them because it sensed the tow was connected. But remove your chocks and release the parking brake, just like that. And that is a Flight Jobs connector. So after this, the transponder is located right over here, but we don't need it because we're not using tower. So now, in order to start the engines, we want to turn off the air condition. So remember, it's over here. It's this light gray panel. We just turn the left pack off and the right pack to off. And after that, we can start engine 1 right over here, or I think this is engine 2. Just turn it to ground, just like I did there. And if we come down here, we'll notice that our N2 is now rising. When this number hits 25, what you want to do is bring this all the way up. This is the fuel to the engine. So we're going to wait until it's at 18 right now, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then bring that all the way up to the very top. And now our N1 starts rising. And if we go outside the aircraft, we'll see that it is starting to spool up. And now we don't want to start engine 2 just yet. In all aircraft, you have to wait until the first engine is started. The way you know you can start this engine is when that flips to auto automatically, just like it just did. So now we can turn this one to ground and watch the N2 rise and get ready to pull this up when it hits 25. So it's at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, and up. And there goes our N1 rising. And if we go out here, this engine is now spooling up.
Just about done here. Going to set your parking brake.
And there we go.
Give me just a moment.
So it's going to ask for stable idle on engine 1, which it is. But there we go. And now engine 2 is already started, so we don't have to do that. And System A hydraulics can come on. The hydraulics is located right over here, so we can turn that switch on. There we go. And now we have the before taxi procedures. The engine generators need to come on. So it's this panel right here. Remember, this is your engine, your left engine, and this is your right engine. Just flip these down, just like that, and just like that. After that, we can turn the probe heat switches off, which is right under your window heat on the very top of the panel right here. Just turn both those switches on, make sure these red lights go off. Anti-ice as required. We are in Atlanta, Georgia, so I do not think we need anti-ice. You would need anti-ice if you were in like Alaska or something. So I'm going to leave the anti-ice off. And now the air conditioning can come back on. So we want to turn these back to auto. The isolation valve can come to auto as well, which is in the middle right here. APU bleed can come off. And the APU switch can come off. Remember, it's located right here. Just turn that off. And now the engine start switches go to continuous. Remember, they're both right here where we turned them to ground. This time turn them the other way to continuous, just like that. Flaps need to be set for takeoff. I believe mine already are. I usually set to 5 for takeoff, which they are set. Right there. Good. And now you can check your flight controls. I don't really do this, but the way to do that is just go outside and start moving these around. See, we got aileron, the rudder's moving, and elevator. That's good there. And now we would obtain taxi clearance from the tower, turn our taxi light on, which is right here, release the parking brake, and you're ready to taxi. So that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned how to start up the Zibo 737 from the cold Antarctic state. Don't forget to join the Discord. I'm looking for more people to fly with on VATSIM, do some group flights or something. And if you need any assistance with starting up aircraft or adding new things to X-Plane 11 or trying to make it look as realistic as possible, don't forget to join the Discord. Also, don't forget to please like and subscribe. I will be releasing more X-Plane videos in the future. This is actually my first X-Plane video, so I'm excited to make some more as time goes on. That's going to do it. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.